Welcome to Real Rockford Files, for tales of the paranormal, supernatural, and the flat-out unbelievable. Today I'll be sharing ghost stories from Arkansas. Let's get into it. Story 1. This happened just last night. It started at around 8 or 8:30 p.m. My other half had just dozed off and started snoring while laying on the couch asleep. My 13-year-old son and I just began watching a show called The Hollow. All of a sudden we began hearing knocks that were like someone hitting wood by spacing the knocks about 2 or 3 seconds apart. We both jumped and looked at each other and started laughing. About 5 minutes later, talking it over, we returned to watching our movie. After about 15 minutes, I felt the urge to go to the restroom. I took care of my business, and upon returning to the living room, suddenly we heard a noise from behind me in the bathroom, where I had just come from. My son just looked at me so seriously and said, "Just think, you were in there with that." Of course, after checking that out and finding nothing, I felt loads of chills. About an hour later, I was returning to the scene of the crime. I just got out of my chair, made a quick left to return to the bathroom, when my son let out a drawn-out, "Oh, oh." I quickly turned back around to see what was happening. When he asked, "Did you see that?" I asked what he saw, and he describes a fluorescent orb, the size of a softball. Later, I see a smaller one, the size of about a quarter, with a tail streaming behind it. This all went on about 4 hours, then just stopped as suddenly as it started. About 3 months ago, my son was sleeping on the couch when he comes running to our room saying, "Mom, come here now." He said he had covered his head because of noises and was suddenly hit really hard on the arm and had the sudden bruise to prove it. Story 2. A friend and I were taking pictures of me with my webcam. I was trying to get a good shot, so I was taking several at a time. I think I took about 30 or so. Then after I took the pictures with the webcam, we started taking a look at them. We were looking to see which picture looked the best. As we were looking, my friend says, "Hey, go back to the one picture we were just looking at." I scrolled back to the picture and I just couldn't believe what I saw, and neither could my friend. It was an image of someone or something next to me on my shoulder. You can see it has long hair and eyes, nose, and a mouth. I was pretty freaked out about it at first. I'm sure there's an explanation, but I didn't have one. My friend and I were just sitting next to each other and we were not moving around. In the background is a wall of sheetrock insulation with a mini fridge and some junk on it. After this, I took more pictures with the webcam and did not see this image or any others like it or anything close. As a matter of fact, we didn't see anything ever again. I have been since then, from time to time, taking photos with my webcam when I was alone and have not seen anything. Story 3. My husband and I live in Fayetteville with our 2 small children, and we swear our apartment is haunted. We know someone had died here, but we don't know under what circumstances. We have a rather loud upstairs neighbor who stomps around his apartment and bangs everything around. At least we thought so, until we realized that he wasn't even home most of the time that the banging was going on. Nobody else lives there. We've also had doors slammed shut on us with no explanation. In our son's room, we have a rather heavy toy truck in front of the door, so he can't shut it. One day, when I was in the room changing his diaper, I watched the toy truck roll away from the door and into the hallway. Nobody else was even in the house. Then all of a sudden, the door slammed shut. Our front door even opens and closes on its own, even when I've locked it. Our children seem to be able to see what's going on because they will both stare at the ceiling, even though there's nothing there, and either start laughing or smiling, or scream bloody murder and hold on to me like they were never going to see me again and start crying. My husband and I have also seen flashes of light out of the corner of our eyes that we can't explain. I don't know what's going on here, but I can't wait till our lease is up. Story 4. We lived at 1101 North Main Street in the very small town of Leola, Arkansas. Our son had the small room right off of us. At first, small things happened like the stereo turning off, light going off and on, etc. Then one night, our 4-year-old son was scared to go to bed. He said that there had been a little girl that had been crawling in bed with him. He said she would crawl in his bed and he would cover her up, and the next morning she was always gone. He told us she never told him her name, but when we asked him where she lived, he gave us directions to the cemetery. We kind of passed it off as maybe an imaginary thing until after we moved. One of our cousins' co-worker asked him who lived in that house. Our cousins lived next door to the house. He said that it was his cousins, and the lady asked him if we had saw the little girl who lived in the attic. She said the little girl would appear to her kids and told them her name was Chaka Chaka. She said she never saw the girl, but since my son saw her and her kids saw her, then I'm pretty sure that she haunts the house and only appears to small kids. One of the neighbors said that in the early 1930s, a log truck driver lived there and he had a small son. He said that back then the boys wore dresses too, and that when the dad left to go to work, he thought the boy went back in and he ran his son over on accident and killed him. My husband also drove a log truck, so I don't know if that was a connection thing or what, but the other lady who lived there worked at a sawmill. There are other things that happened in Leola too. A long time ago there was a train, but it's gone now, and when I was a teenager I could hear the chugging of the train and the whistle. I've heard other stories too about Leola. It's about 6 miles from Jenkins Ferry, where part of the Civil War took place. Story 5. I was asleep in my room one night. I always closed my closet doors before I went to bed. One night, around 2 in the morning, I woke up to see my closet doors were wide open. I leaned up a little and there I saw, plain as day, a Catholic schoolgirl. I could describe her to everyone so well. I went back to bed only to have a strange dream about ghosts. In my dream, I was in the attic of my house. My grandmother was there too. I saw a diary and picked it up. In my dream, I was told to put it down because it belonged to Donna. My grandmother started leaving and I followed. As I was leaving, the door slammed in front of me and the voice said, "How much do you know?" Then I woke up and the day was here. Ever since then, I did EVPs and caught things. My mom's purse was thrown from the countertop. Once I was asleep again, only to see a different girl in the closet, an evil one it seemed. Do they follow me? Are they trying to tell me something? They always say my name. I want to help. I sit at my computer and feel burning on my arm, but no scratches. Then I get scratches out of nowhere sometimes. I was in the garage one day and I hate it when my shirt is a little tucked above my butt. So I went to pull it down and I heard something, but thought nothing of it. I went to pull down my shirt and I know I felt a hand or some kind of flesh holding my shirt up. I was scared out of my mind. Story 6. I was about 13 years old at this time, and my family and I were going to the Mayberry Inn to take photos and see if we can capture orbs or other spirits in the pictures. As I stepped out of the car and looked at the white inn hidden by dense foliage, I got the chills. I said, to anybody that is listening, I'm not here to harm you, and I heard a jingling noise and felt cold. I looked down and saw a pile of coins. I looked in the house and saw a young woman grinning a friendly smile at me. I walked in the house and suddenly I was struck by fear as I looked at the fireplace where the owner of the Mayberry Inn burned his victims. I saw the girl and she was frowning. So I said, I'm sorry, and ran out of the house. I swiftly put the coins in my pocket that were in my fist. We left after my mom's photos were taken, and I put the coins in a little box, and that was all she wrote, or so I thought. Ever since then, I've been seeing 2 little cats in my house that are not mine, and a human ghost. Before my visit to the Mayberry Inn, I had a cat that died of natural causes, and occasionally I would see her walking about the house. And ever since I visited the inn, she left. My mom says that you aren't supposed to accept gifts from ghosts because they will get in your house. I believe her now. I rarely see the little cats anymore, and now it's the human. I feel someone watching me and holding my back every time I sit at the computer. I always look behind me, I feel cold, and like someone is staring at me. When I have my light off and it's dim and raining outside, they come into my room more. I don't really feel all that negative about them, but it freaks me out sometimes. It follows me wherever I go. Whenever I feel sad or depressed, the ghost is there and it feels comforting to me at times. I have recently felt the little kittens laying on my bed as I was falling asleep. They were very comforting and soothing. I don't think this ghost dislikes me. I just think she wants help. I think she chose to come to my house because I suffer from sadness a lot, and so does she. She's a sad ghost who wants peace or maybe a friend. I don't mind the presence, and sometimes I like it. All I have to say is, you may not be so lucky if you take a gift from a ghost. They may be angry or even a demon, so be careful. No one likes a visit from a stranger at odd hours of the night. Story 7. This is one of those stories passed down through the family, told by my father. He passed away, so I can't ask him to clear any details, but I'll relate it as well as I can remember. My father's family, a couple of generations back, lived in Arkansas. They were very poor, and I suppose they were what you would call true hillbillies. This was told to me by my dad, and happened to my great-grandparents. They lived in a little house surrounded by fields out in the country. They were self-supporting and just starting out together. My dad's mom wasn't even thought of yet. My great-grandparents had just climbed into bed when there was a pounding at the front door. They worried because someone knocking at the door at that hour could only mean something was wrong. Remember, this would be around the 1890s. Early to bed, early to rise, no neighbors for quite a distance, and no phones. When they got to the door, Great-Grandpa called out and asked who it was. There was no reply, so after asking a time or two more, they waited to see what would happen. When some time went by and they didn't hear anything, they went back to bed. They were pretty isolated, so didn't want to open the door to someone who could be dangerous. They were wondering what was going on, a little irritated and cautious. This happened a few more nights, after dark, when they were in bed. I'm not clear on whether it was a few nights in a row or just sporadically. Nobody answered when they asked who it was. Great-Grandpa was more than a little irritated, and he was worried. He placed his hunting gun near the door in case he had to use it. That was the home security system in those days, though he didn't want to hurt anyone. After this had gone on for a while, they started worrying about other things that couldn't be seen. They weren't closed-minded to such things. After all, there are plenty of hillbilly superstitions. They came up with the idea of put a sprinkling of flour on the front steps to see what happened when they had the knocks on the door. Before too long, I'm not sure if days went by or what, the knocks started again in the evening after they were ready for bed. Great-Grandpa grabbed his gun, he wasn't a fool, just preparing for anything, and yelled out, asking who was there a couple of times. When there was no answer, he put his gun at the ready in case he had to shoot, and had Great-Grandma fling the door wide open. There was no one there. Great-Grandpa called out, but there was nobody in sight. They looked down and saw footprints in the flour leading up to the door, and then just stopping at the door. Great-Grandma said a little prayer. They were scared out of their wits. As far as I heard, that was the end of things knocking on the door. My dad was a great storyteller, but I heard him recall this story many times and it never varied. He always claimed it to be true, and I believe him. He is my dad after all, and I don't think he embellished too much, maybe not at all. My dad's sister, my aunt, also claims the story to be true. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Hope you enjoyed.